Have you ever looked at someone who seemed full of life at 75, only to see them begin to fade just a few years later? It's unsettling, and far more common than most people realize. You might think it's just genetics or bad luck, something inevitable about crossing that invisible age line. But that's not the whole truth. In fact, what really shortens life after 80 often has nothing to do with disease or DNA. There are quiet, hidden forces, small changes that creep in unnoticed, that slowly chip away at vitality, clarity, and the will to keep going. These aren't the typical culprits like diet or smoking. These are emotional, social, and deeply human experiences that too often go ignored. The kind of things you don't see on a medical chart, but that weigh down the soul and shrink the spirit. In this video, we're going to explore 6 surprisingly powerful reasons why many people begin to decline after 80. Reasons that don't get talked about nearly enough. But once you understand them, you'll realize you're not powerless. You can interrupt the spiral. You can stay awake to what matters. So, if you're hoping to live not just longer, but better, I invite you to watch till the end, because one of these reasons might hit home in a way you weren't expecting. Let's begin with the first one. 1. Overcautious inactivity, when safety slowly steals your strength. At first glance, it seems wise. You had a close call, maybe a slip in the hallway, or you tripped on a sidewalk crack, and everyone says the same thing. Be more careful now. So you start doing less. You stop going out when it's rainy. You avoid stairs. You sit longer, rest more, move less. It feels safer. But slowly, quietly, your body begins to forget how to move. What most people don't realize is that strength doesn't just disappear because of age. It fades when it's not used. And when you stop bending, stretching, walking, climbing, your muscles shrink, your balance falters, and your confidence erodes. It happens so gradually, you don't even notice. Until one day you need to do something simple, like rise from a chair, and your body refuses. I knew an 82-year-old man named Walter who stopped his evening walks after one minor slip in the rain. He wasn't injured, just shaken. But from that day on, he stayed inside, convinced it was the smart thing to do. Within 6 months, he had lost over 10 pounds of muscle. His legs felt unsteady. Even his breathing changed. He didn't stop walking because he was weak. He became weak because he stopped walking. Being cautious isn't wrong. In fact, it's necessary. But there's a difference between being mindful of risk and surrendering to fear. Your body is not a fragile machine. It's a living, adapting organism that needs movement to stay alive. Even gentle, careful motion tells your muscles, your nerves, and your brain, I'm still here. I'm still needed. So ask yourself, have you been doing less not because you can't, but because you're afraid? If so, it may be time to reclaim motion. Start small, stand a little longer, walk a little farther, stretch a little deeper. Because after 80, the choice isn't just between falling and not falling. It's between fading and staying alive. 2. Loss of micro-social connections, when the world quietly stops noticing you. One of the most soul-draining shifts that happens after 80 isn't loud or dramatic. It's not about losing friends or being abandoned by family. It's quieter than that. So subtle it often goes unnoticed. It's the fading of those small, everyday interactions that once made you feel part of the world. A nod to your neighbor, a joke with the pharmacist, a friendly chat with the mailman. These tiny moments, what researchers call microsocial engagements, may seem insignificant, but they were actually feeding your sense of identity and belonging. They were silently keeping your nervous system regulated and your mind alert. But then, the changes start. Maybe your hearing isn't what it used to be, so conversations feel harder. Maybe the weather feels too cold, or your legs feel too weak to walk to the store. You stop going out. You start ordering groceries online. You ask your daughter to pick up your medicine. And bit by bit, the fabric of daily connection unravels. You don't realize it right away. In fact, you may feel like you're just simplifying, but your brain feels it, your heart feels it, because those quick hellos and passing smiles weren't just pleasant, they were medicine. They told your body, you still matter. I once knew a woman in her late 80s who lived alone, but insisted on going to the same coffee shop every morning. She barely spoke to anyone, just a nod to the cashier, a wave to a familiar face. But that 5 minutes of interaction, it anchored her. It gave shape to her day. It gave her nervous system a reason to stay regulated. her mind a reason to stay awake. When those moments vanish, your body gets the message. You're no longer needed. And that message quietly drains vitality from your immune system, your memory, your mood. So, if your days are starting to feel silent, if you've stopped saying hello to strangers, stopped striking up small talk, stopped leaving the house, just because, consider this. It's not about being social, it's about being seen, and the smallest smile can be a lifeline. 3. Emotional suppression. When silent grief starts to speak through the body. By the time someone reaches their 80s, they've likely lost more than most people can imagine. A partner, a sibling, maybe even a child. And while the world politely acknowledges these losses with a brief word of comfort, it rarely lingers long enough to notice what happens next: the silence. At this age, grief doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like a blank stare, a slow shuffle, a quiet voice saying, "I'm fine," when everything inside is aching. What's dangerous isn't the sadness itself. It's the habit of pushing it down, of thinking you should be used to it by now, or believing there's no one left who would understand. But here's the truth your doctor may never mention. Unspoken grief doesn't vanish. It lodges itself in the body. It changes how you breathe. It tightens your shoulders. It dulls your appetite, disrupts your sleep, and weakens your immunity. Over time, it creates a kind of low-grade shutdown, not from age but from emotional weight that was never lifted. I remember George, 86, who lost his wife of 60 years. He didn't talk about it, said he didn't want to dwell. But within months, he stopped going to his weekly domino games, began losing weight, and started waking up in the middle of the night with no reason he could explain. His heart was quietly breaking, but no one could see it, not even him. You see, staying alive past 80 isn't just about eating right or taking your pills. It's about finding safe places to feel, whether that's a trusted friend, a journal, a support group, or even a prayer whispered into the night. Emotion needs to move, or it will settle like sediment in your soul. So, if there's something you've been holding in, loss, regret, even old anger, give it space. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. And staying human, even in pain, is how we stay alive. 4. Disconnection from nature, the missing element most people never think of. As people get older, especially past 80, there's a growing tendency to spend most of the day indoors, especially during bad weather or when energy runs low. Windows stay closed, curtains drawn. Outdoor time becomes a thing of the past. But this disconnect from nature comes with a price, and it's one most people don't even realize they're paying. You see, your body evolved to sync with natural cues: sunlight to wake your brain, green spaces to soothe your nervous system, fresh air to feed your lungs. When you stop experiencing these things regularly, something primal inside begins to wilt. Research has shown that even a few minutes a day in natural settings can lower blood pressure, reduce stress hormones, boost immune function, and improve mood. But it's not just about biology, it's about spirit. Looking up at the sky, feeling the wind, watching birds, trees, clouds. These things remind you that life is still happening around you, even if it feels like yours is slowing down. There was an 85-year-old woman named Maria who had been feeling increasingly anxious and sluggish. Her doctor suggested antidepressants, but her granddaughter had another idea. They started having tea every morning in the garden. No long walks, just sitting with the sun on their faces and their feet on the grass. Within weeks, Maria's anxiety lessened, her sleep improved, and, most surprising of all, she started humming again while doing the dishes. It wasn't magic, it was reconnection. So, if you found yourself spending days in dim rooms, watching the world through a screen instead of a window, consider this your invitation. Step outside, even just for 5 minutes. Feel the sun, breathe the air, watch a leaf flutter. Nature doesn't just decorate your world, it heals it. Because after 80, one of the most life-affirming things you can do is remember that you're still part of something bigger than yourself. 5. Disrupted sleep rhythms. When the body's clock starts to lose its timekeeper, there's something most people forget about aging. It doesn't just happen in your joints or memory, it happens in your rhythms, the quiet, steady pulse of day and night, alertness and rest, light and darkness. And once you reach your 80s, that internal clock, your circadian rhythm, becomes more delicate than ever. What throws it off balance? the same small changes that feel harmless at first. Sleeping in later, napping in the afternoon, turning on the TV late at night, spending days inside without real sunlight. Slowly, the signals your brain relies on to say, "Wake up," or "Time to rest," start to blur. And when those rhythms go off track, everything else begins to follow. Your energy, your appetite, your immune system, even your mood and memory. You might find yourself lying in bed for hours, unable to fall asleep, or waking up tired even after what seemed like a full night. You might feel groggy during the day, or anxious for no reason at all. But what's really happening is that your internal compass has lost its true north. I once met a woman named Helen, 84, independent, mentally sharp. But in recent months, she'd grown foggy, fatigued, disoriented. Her blood work was fine. Her medication hadn't changed. The solution? Her doctor suggested a simple ritual. Spend 20 minutes in the morning near a window with sunlight streaming in, and turn off all screens an hour before bed. That tiny change, reconnecting her body to the light of day and the darkness of night, reshaped her sleep. And with it, her energy returned. So did her clarity. Sleep isn't just rest, it's repair. It's how your brain heals itself, how your cells restore balance. And it starts, not in bed, but in the choices you make throughout the day. So, if your sleep has been off, don't just reach for another pillow or sleeping pill. Ask yourself, when was the last time I really felt the sun on my face? The darkness of a calm, quiet evening? Because your body isn't just getting old, it may simply be out of sync. And with a little rhythm, it just might remember how to feel alive again. 6. Loss of daily purpose. When the morning no longer asks you to rise. This might be the most quietly dangerous change of all, the one people don't talk about because they don't even have the words for it. The fading of purpose. Not some grand life mission. Not a legacy or career. But the simple kind of purpose. The reason to get out of bed. To make a cup of tea. To feed the cat. To wave at the neighbor's kid. That's the purpose that sustains us after 80. And when it starts to slip, so do we. You might not even notice it happening. Maybe the garden gets neglected. Maybe your walking partner moves away. Maybe your family stops calling as often. At first, you tell yourself it's fine. You deserve to rest. But slowly, your mornings lose their meaning. Your days lose their shape. And you stop moving not because you can't, but because, why bother? But purpose isn't optional. It's biological. The brain, the heart, the immune system, they all stay active when they believe they're still needed, that they still matter. I once knew a woman named Ruth, 88, not rich, not in perfect health, but more alive than most people half her age. Why? Every Monday she wrote postcards to church members who couldn't leave their homes. Every Thursday she made soup and froze it for a nearby shelter. Every day at 4 p.m., she sat by the window and waved at the kids coming home from school. And they waved back. She wasn't doing anything remarkable, but those tiny rituals lit up her life. They gave her rhythm. They gave her reason. So, if you've been feeling adrift, if the days blend together and nothing pulls you forward, it's not just sadness. It's a signal. Your body is waiting for a reason to come alive again. Give it one. Find a ritual, a responsibility, a small task that says, I still have something to offer. Because the truth is, people don't stop living when they get old. They stop living when they stop feeling needed. And bringing back purpose, no matter how small, may be the most powerful medicine of all. If you've made it this far, let me leave you with something I hope stays with you. Most people don't begin to fade after 80 because of one big moment. It's rarely a fall or a diagnosis or a sudden change. It's the slow, quiet unraveling of the invisible threads that once held life together. Movement, meaning, sunlight, connection, expression, purpose. These aren't medical emergencies. They're soul emergencies. And they happen so gradually that you don't notice the loss until one day you wake up and realize you're no longer living. You're just existing. But here's the truth. Just as fading happens in quiet steps, so does renewal. One extra walk around the block. One small ritual that gives your morning shape. One real conversation that allows you to say what's really on your heart. One simple moment outdoors, letting the sun remind your body that it's still alive. These small acts, they're not just habits, they're lifelines. They tell your body, your brain, your spirit, we're still here, we're still needed, we still matter. So, now I ask you, Which of these 6 quiet threats surprised you the most? Which one felt uncomfortably familiar? And more importantly, which one are you willing to face gently starting today? Because you don't have to wait until it's too late to change the way you age. If you felt something watching this, if a memory stirred, if a light bulb went off, or if your heart whispered, "That's me," don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below. Share your story. Tell us which small change you're ready to make. Not only does it help you reflect, it helps others feel less alone. And if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss new insights that could keep you or someone you love living fuller, longer, and stronger. This community isn't just about information, it's about connection. And we're so glad you're here. Until next time, keep living like it still matters. Because it does.